Hello, Fight or Flight viewers. This is Nathan from Season 3 and Season 4 of Fight or Flight, and today I have a very special interview. Firstly, spoiler warning, if you do not want any spoilers for this mini, you can click off now. I don't know what you're doing here, but I have the winner of Fight or Flight's second ever mini, a legend, an icon. It's Teagan. Teagan, how are you?
Oh my God. Hello. I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Oh, I'm so excited, so stoked. It was such a fun game, so fun watching and being a part of it on the sideline. And, we broke the fourth wall a little bit. I was surprised. I was like, oh, Tegan knows who I am? This is cool.
I
So very,
watch, okay? I'm an avid watcher of Fight or Flight. I've seen it all.
yeah. And I was going to be, my first question to you was that, you have a lot of experience, obviously playing Fight or Flight before, but had you played any orgs or anything else prior to that as well?
That's a great question. I mean, I'll say this, like a lot of my friends are gay guys, so naturally my exposure to this sort of thing is like really, really high. It's always kind of in my orbit. That being said, like it's not really something that I've explored much outside of Fight or Flight. So I played season one, which was, kind of the guinea pig season back during the pandemic when we really couldn't go anywhere. And it was mostly, people that Anthony, the creator of Fight or Flight, that he kind of knew that were his friends and the people in his life. And so he recruited us all to play. We didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. And I had such a blast doing that. But after that, there weren't many other opportunities for me in terms of like, playing other orgs. I've done a couple like traders games with friends, but other than that, not much at all. So I watch Fight or Flight, definitely. I am all caught up. I thought season four was amazing, and you were incredible on season four. I was honestly rooting for you. So maybe you'll have your moment in a mini to return as well. But yeah, that's why I was so excited to get the chance to come back and get to play a mini again because I always have so much fun watching Fight or Flight, playing, and it was really cool to come back all these years later to take another stab at it.
Absolutely. I was like, you're one of the true OGs from season one, and the fact that you still keep up and watch and share appreciation for me is like, whoa, this is really cool because truly the origin of this podcast that doing for Fight or Flight was just I'm just a fan. I just happened to play. I love the game too, and happened to binge watch your season and then season two before three, and I was like, I just love the show. I love the product, so I'm just happy to be here too.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Anthony and all of the production do an amazing job also of like keeping it fresh and exciting. So that's why I know that, to some it might seem like you have a slight advantage coming back as the returning player, but ultimately you never know what's going to happen. You never know what they're going to cook up for you. And so it'll always keep you on your toes no matter what.
No doubt. I was gagged every episode of season four, so most of the time. Well, let's hop into it. It's not about me. It's about you and your win, and I'm so excited to get into it. You are coming in. You're playing with Sandra. You're playing with Ty and Benjamin, these icons from their own respective shows, and you see the cast. What are you thinking going into this? And do you have like any initial strategies, especially from, your previous time on Fight or Flight? Anything that you want to change or that you want to lead with going into this game?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, first of all, coming in with this cast, this was obviously one of the more intimidating groups that I think, I could have possibly stepped into. Sandra obviously is such a legend, and so even the fact that she was gracing us with her presence in this game was just incredible. I definitely tried to, prepare myself and get a sense of how she had played games before because I'm actually not really a Survivor watcher. But again, I have many gay guys in my life, and so they were happily, able to get me up to date on all things Sandra and all things Survivor. So I did a little bit of research on that part, and I'm like one of those narcissists. I've definitely watched my season back like more than once because I just have so much fun watching it. I get such a kick out of it, and I see the moments where I feel like I went wrong and I would have done things differently. But my approach to entering the game is kind of how I approach like any game, especially with new people. I think that that each piece of how you present yourself in a game is really a part of your strategy and a part of like your overall plan to win and to get people on your side. And so, I think the way that I present myself aesthetically is really important in the game. I tend to kind of go in with this like, like doe-eyed, like confused, like sexy baby kind of vibe, because I think that that really makes people kind of discount whatever threat I might be bringing to the game. So I try to like lead with that. I pretend I'm a little confused at the beginning, like I don't really know what's going on, like I'm just gonna, go with the flow and like I just want to be like friendly and give a good impression. And then, the claws start to come out inevitably. As we get later into the game. But yeah, I really wanted to just kind of like, see what was going on. Obviously, stay under the radar those first few rounds so that I wouldn't be targeted. And I was really, really glad that that never came up. And just make allies with as many people as possible because, especially in a mini, things changed so fast. Like, you would be talking to someone and you'd be like, oh my God, like, this is the person, like, we're gonna, like, start plotting together. Next round, they're gone, So you really have to be adaptable and making as many connections as possible because you look up in like 20 minutes and your whole game can change like that. So yeah, I feel like it was really for me about, downplaying my threat level, being very friendly and social. Ultimately, I'm a social player more than anything else. And so I rely on that heavily for sure.
Yeah, and we definitely saw that. And I'll give you your props too. You end up being a little beast at the end there as well. We'll get to
Who
that.
knew?
And well, yeah, right. It was like didn't expect that, but that was a pleasant surprise. And we also see you definitely showed a lot of claws as well. My opinion, the biggest move of the game was completely throwing Shrishti under the bus, and we'll talk about that. I was surprised to see that. But I want to hear from you coming into the game. You have, fellow Fight or Flight alumni. You have Ayana, you have Shrishti, and you have Zach. What are you thinking about those players coming in the game with you?
Yeah, I mean, well, Zach was definitely the wild card for me because I knew him the least. Obviously, we didn't have a chance to play together, but I had seen his season and he was a winner. And so I knew that he really, was going to be someone to watch in the game. I actually really wanted the opportunity to work with him. I was hoping that like he would get to stick around for a little bit so that maybe we could do some plotting together. But obviously, he was chopped round one. And I mean, that was one of those situations where I didn't vote for him. I didn't really, know that he was up. I didn't want to see him go necessarily because I just think it's fun to keep in like, really strong players. I like knowing people who are gonna like shake things up. So, he was kind of in and out, unfortunately. And with Shrishti and Ayana, Shrishti, again, obviously she was not on my season, but I had like somewhat of a sense of how she plays. And I felt like she played a very like observant game, which I really, really respected about her approach. And Ayana was just like the only person that I actually, knew and had played with before. And so we had that season one camaraderie. And I feel like we never really got a chance on our season to connect as much as I had hoped. And so I was happy that we got a little bit of a moment to work together on this mini. But yeah, I feel like there was a lot of talk about how the returning players were connected and we really knew each other. But the truth is, like, we really didn't know each other that well. And I think there was only a very brief moment where me, Shrishti, and Ayana were kind of working together. And with the mini in particular, it's kind of by chance. It's like, who are you ending up in the room with? Like who is going to make it through any given round? And as you mentioned with Shrishti, sometimes things will change and your allies become your enemies and your targets really, really quick.
Absolutely, no doubt. So originally, when we start off with the game, you mentioned you did not vote for Zach. You cast your vote for Andrew in the first impression vote, and vote again for Andrew in the initial vote, which actually ends up being funny because both of you make it very far and end up connecting on later. So talk to me about that first initial round. Did you just not connect with Andrew, and then what were you thinking off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe this is controversial, but just like in the beginning of season one, I'm always gonna kind of a gun for what I'm gonna perceive as like a straight man in the game. And that's just an easy first vote for me, and it's true. Like we had also just not had a chance to talk at all. And so I just kind of like randomly picked, I was like, he just seems like someone to like throw my vote on. And yeah, I didn't like really have a chance to get to know him, get to chat with him, have a strong first impression. And like I said, I didn't want to vote for Zach because I had hoped that we would get the chance to play together. And so Andrew just was, the one who happened to be my vote. I wasn't necessarily banking on him being the one to go out, but I know those early outs can, sometimes really just be random. And I think that happened, with a lot of the first few early outs. It was just kind of like whoever the group picked up on. And so yeah, it was nothing personal, and he did go on to play a great game. Probably would have made my life easier if he was eliminated in that first round, but I'm glad that he stuck around. We got to work together a little bit, and honestly, he was a really, really great player, and definitely made things interesting and exciting up until the final three.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it would have made your life a lot easier, especially because it seemed like you two were fighting for a lot of that control in the end game. And someone like Zach, I think, definitely could have been a shield for you down the line, especially because you end up losing Ty and Sandra back to back. We'll get to that. And then you kind of come to the forefront. So I think it could have been interesting to see that dynamic play out. But unfortunately, Zach is gone. We get to the second round. And it is going to be an hour later, very familiar with this twist we have here. And you are end up going to choose now. Talk to me about that decision.
Yeah, this one's always such a toss-up. I was surprised that it was coming so early in the game, but I appreciated that it came early in the game because it was obviously easier to shield yourself from, being scrutinized and picked on. So, I had been talking to some folks. It seemed like now was the general consensus. I was kind of figuring that people were just anxious. I was anxious, just wanted to get it over with. And overwhelmingly, people went with now, and it just worked out so well. At that point, I wasn't worried about being a target at all. I knew that I had been like making a good impression, starting to form good connections with people. And so it was really easy to ride that round out. And unfortunately for the folks who were in the later category, it was a little more difficult. But yeah, that's always such a stressful twist. And I was like, girl, let's just get this over with. Like, I don't want to waste any more time. Like, I can't sit in the uncertainty for that long. So let me go up now. And yeah, it ended up being a really, really good choice.
I think you're definitely right. It worked out very well. Able to shield yourself quite well in that round. And I definitely agree with your kind of like doe eye strategy under the radar at front. I'm curious to know, like socially, you were doing really well. A lot of people were like, oh, I just love Teagan. Like, I love Teagan's vibe. I kept hearing that in my room. Um, is that just you? Like, I feel like you're just so easy to like. Like, is that just, does that come naturally for you to in the game?
I guess so. I mean, no, I mean, I think that, when you are playing a game like this, you need to be aware of your strengths and play to them. Just by nature, I'm a very social person. It's just, one of my skills. I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at talking in general, which might not seem like a skill, but it's something as I've, come to realize in my life, it actually is something that you can really use to your advantage. And so, I think I play up the best aspects of myself that I know people respond well to, and I think a lot of that is by not coming off initially with abrasive energy, but instead being very friendly, being somewhat agreeable, right? Like things that are just, easy to digest and that don't flag you as a threat in people's mind. Now, of course, when the game gets more intense, a different side of me starts to come out. And that presents a whole new, array of challenges. But yeah, I think initially, like, playing up the likability is something that's really, really important to me. And I think that fight or flight and all of these games are really just like going to a party. You know what I mean? You make your rounds, you talk to people, you try your best to present the best version of yourself and to make a good first impression, and hope that, people are, leaving feeling like you're someone that they want to keep talking to.
Yeah, and that's a really great analogy. If I'm on Survivor, I'm Jeff Probst. I'm like, oh, I love that. Survivor, always I love the analogies there. And I wanted to talk to you also about, you made a great point where it comes to this point where you do kind of flip that switch and you make it happen in the end game. So what is that for you? You have like this killer instinct that you're able to turn on, and especially as a great confessionalist, like how do you make that switch?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this time I feel like because it was the mini, it was so much harder to pace myself. And I felt actually that, the more aggressive side of me in the game came out a little bit sooner than I had even wanted it to. Because again, once that side comes out, once people start to realize that I am calculated in the way that I play, that's when I know that a target starts to appear on my back, and I need to be much more careful about how I navigate the game. So, yeah, I think that it really was just forced out of me because I wanted things to start moving. Really, it was the friend or foe round this time because that round is one of those where you just can't hide anymore. I, once again was selected as a friend and had to advocate for myself. And once you're in that position, like I'm not about to take that lying down. Like I have to speak up and I have to try and, drum up some support. And so it was those moments where it really started to be like, okay, time to like actually get the game face on. But I think that there were still ways that I was able to spin it once I was being more vocal. A big moment was when, I made my plea about how we need to get the quiet players out, the ones who are sneaking under the radar. That really appealed to Andrew, which worked so well to my benefit because it kind of kept me off his radar in a major way for a few rounds that really could have been, and probably if I was playing against me, the optimal time to get me out from the game. So yeah, I think balancing is hard, and in this mini in particular, it's just such a short time span that you really have to, once the switch flips, I was like, I gotta commit now. I gotta commit now. So the real, the mask is off and the real gaming persona is out, and I'm just gonna ride that out and hopefully, be able to still wield some power along the way.
Yeah, and I'll jump ahead too, as I think it worked really well with Andrew too. You dodged being pulled into that competition at Final Five, which was wild to me. And
I don't know how that was just pure luck, honestly.
yeah, and you did a really great job of balancing that too, where we talked about that switching the flip, switching the flip. But the time constraint, I feel like went quite well to your advantage as well, because I think if you have that time to decompress after each round, you start to see like, okay, well, Teagan is playing a really good game.
Yes.
But then I feel like you were just completely able to just steamroll and just keep your momentum up, and no one was truly able to stop you. So that's how I kind of viewed it. But I'll take it back just to a second. So we get to, May goes kind of out unanimously. But then we get to a pretty integral round, Hunter and Hunted, classic twist. It ends up being, Ryan versus Ty. And it ends up being a 7-6 vote, pretty close vote there. Where did you fall on this? And
Wow.
was this close for you?
Wow, I actually see. I didn't know that it was such a close vote. First of all, I have to shout out, who was it? I think it was Nora in the chat who had said that the Hunter versus Hunted is the humiliation ritual, and it definitely was that again. So shout out to Ryan. I actually did vote for Ty in that round, and the reason was, I mean, I wasn't so concerned about always being on the right side of the vote. I was more concerned about, again, thinking about the time constraint, knowing that there were people that I was able to form closer relationships with. And I had found myself in a couple rooms with Ryan where I was able to ally myself. And, I wanted to also be, a woman of my word. He protected me, did not pick my shape, the heart. And I was appreciative of that. And so even though I felt like Ty was a big swing, I thought it would have been a great opportunity to get her out because she was definitely a strong player. I thought Ryan was probably toast the next round anyway. So I figured it might be worth, seeing what would happen. And clearly it was a pretty close vote. But yeah, I think unfortunately for Ryan, he was playing, a pretty good game, but he really took a huge swing there. And being the hunter, unfortunately, just tends to do a lot of people in. So yeah, crazy round, but I think that Ty was really able to do a great job of escaping elimination then.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, Anthony and production do a really great job. Just like, well, it was a power, but truly, is it? I don't know. I'm glad I was never the hunter personally. So that
Yeah,
would be not
not
for
for
me.
me.
Yeah. Then we get to keeper swap, another classic. You were able to dodge that. Ends up being Benjamin against Tori here. Where did you fall on this side of things, and how did you see the round shaping up right before jury?
Yeah, this was another tough one because I had really been enjoying my conversations with Benjamin at this point. I felt like we had had a lot of opportunities to chat, and honestly, like I was kind of seeing him as someone that I wanted to continue, allying myself with. He was kind of the one who prompted us in a room to be like, yo, like, are we actually going to start like, making an alliance here? And I was like, okay, girl, I'm like, this is an alliance right here, right now. And so, I thought maybe that would eventually evolve into something greater. And so, when he presented his plan of, swapping the vote and having us all vote for him, obviously I've seen it done before. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. At this point, I had no real strong ties to Tori in the game, and so I wasn't particularly concerned about her being eliminated. And so, again, I voted for Benjamin. I thought maybe it would work out, and the fact that it didn't, it was a bummer because we didn't get to play longer, but also another strong player that honestly I was a little relieved to see going out at an early stage of the game because it was just, one less ally maybe, but also definitely one less obstacle.
No doubt. And we do get to the friend or foe stage of the game. You kind of get called out by Andrew here saying that, oh, we have, these group of returning fight or fight players that are still together. We should look out for them. And this is where you truly start to pick up the game and be more vocal and start controlling a lot of these votes. How do you take that and use it to your advantage at this point?
Yeah, I think that this is where I realized it was time to break out a different skill set. I think that the ability to be an agile player, to fly under the radar, to, avoid having the attention placed on you is one way to play the game. And that's the way that some people play the entire game. And again, like I said in the final two with Michaela, I don't think that it's a wrong way to play the game. I think that it's just a different way. So I felt like in this moment, I wanted to kind of present my other skill set, which is that, I feel like I'm good at advocating for myself. I'm good at swaying public opinion and getting people to consider things. And so I knew that it was early, but I was definitely a little bit nervous about going up, especially because it was a competition. I think if it was a vote for the friends, I would have felt a lot more confident. But knowing that it was a competition, it just felt like it was so much more of a gamble in terms of what happened. So yeah, I felt like it was time to really start using my oration skills and make a case. It did not work, but I think it was very, very close. And I also think that when you get to that point in the game, right, like right around jury, people respect players who are honest. I think it can be scary to speak up, but we all start to get a little frustrated when it's like, okay, like everyone is playing their cards, like is holding their cards so close to their chest, is playing such a like DL game. Like somebody speak up and like be unafraid to be honest. I respect that in players in the game, right? I think that's how Sandra plays the game often. She's very upfront, very blunt. And I think that a lot of people really like to see that energy. And so this was a moment where I was like, look, like, I'm not afraid to say, like, these are the people I put down for my enemies. Like, it's nothing personal. Like, I'm not afraid to show my hand and let people kind of know where I'm at right now. And hopefully that'll inspire others to speak up a little bit. And I do think from that point forward, the game got a little bit more electric. People started to speak up a little bit more. Things really started to shift and get more intense. And so, yeah, no regrets there. And thankfully, I was able to narrowly survive that competition at the friend or foe round.
Yeah, and we unfortunately do see Ayana go out of the game, and we go into the next round, which you're right, it definitely does get a lot more intense because you have to decide who is going to be the third member of your trio. You originally have Ty, who is going to be potentially a part of that trio, and you're like, oh, hold up, well, let me get Sandra in here. Talk to me about that decision to kind of switch up in the public deliberation and get Sandra into your trio.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that was really, really stressful. I knew at this point too that people were kind of like side-eyeing me and Trishti a little bit because of what Andrew had said about the returning players, working closely together. So I think in that moment I knew though, because Trishti and I had both listed each other as like close allies. I was like, we're definitely good. We just wound up in a room with Ty. We hadn't been talking that much. And I mean, look, obviously it's so nothing personal, and it was also a great opportunity to get a strong player out of the game. And also, I was kind of like, girl, like, what do you mean? Like, you don't want to be in the trio with us? Like, what's wrong with us? Like, I was a little kind of like, okay, like weird, because when I was going into all the other rooms, everyone else had already trioed up. Like, nobody else was even discussing it. It seemed like the strategy for most people was like, whoever like I'm with right now, I'm just gonna lock it in. But when I found out that Sandra was still looking for someone, this felt like a really good opportunity to ally myself and have like, arguably, or maybe inarguably, the strongest, most established player in the game on my side, and to, have a moment of goodwill where I am having her in my corner, right? Like, either we can target her and get her out, or I can have an extremely strong player on my side, and that would be a huge benefit. It was a cold moment in the main call, but ultimately, I think that it was the time where we have to start making hard decisions. And again, Ty was a great player. I think that it really was a moment of strategy. I think that looking back, that moment in the game with the trios, it probably was in everyone's best interest to just like immediately decide on a trio to not be left in the cold. And if she had, been more enthusiastic and like immediately decided, I probably would have just stuck with that. But the way that it worked out, I saw an opportunity to get her out and to get Sandra, in my corner. And so it ended up being uncomfortable for everyone, but also ultimately probably a really good move for my game.
I agree because you were able to toe that line very well. And the next twist, you had to nominate someone in that trio. And Sandra is going to go up here where you are able to protect yourself and Shrishti for one more round. And then Sandra is going to go out here. Walk me through, you had a great run with Sandra. What was it like? You obviously so fun to play with Sandra. Walk me through how was it playing with her and was it tough to see her go out here?
It was amazing playing with her, honestly. Like, I loved the energy that she brought to the game. Again, like just such a like raw, like blunt, honest player. And I love that in people in games. Like, I want to see more of that energy always. I think that games are always the most fun when people are a little bit more upfront with their decisions and like strong players aren't necessarily like immediately targeted, but get an opportunity to play things out. So it was so cool to get to play with her. I felt like we had some really nice conversations, and were able to build like a little alliance during this game. I genuinely, and like this is the truth, like I genuinely was wanting to protect her. Like, because I didn't know if the group was ready to vote her out. Like, that's the thing with a player like this, someone that we all want to see continue playing the game, right? When is the moment where you cut the cord, and when is the moment where you just be like, oh, but we just like, we want to have her play for a few more rounds. So, when I heard that Daniel was plotting her elimination, I definitely was a little surprised. I was like, oh, I guess people are ready to do it. But I didn't know if the votes were going to be there or not. So, I felt bad because we kind of forced her into a corner. But also, I mean, come on, like it was an iconic moment to get to put Sandra up for elimination and then for her to get eliminated. To feel like I had a hand in, getting her out of the game was truly, truly crazy. But it was so much fun playing with her. Honestly, I would have loved to have her stay in even longer, and she, probably would have won the game. But that was a moment that was definitely a turning point, because I was like, oh, like the biggest threat, the biggest competition is now gone. I was like, girl, this could be my game now. But yeah. She was amazing. So cool that she took the time to play with us and like, be a part of Fight or Flight. It was awesome.
No doubt. And unfortunately, it does seem that you did lose a little bit of agency by losing Sandra, who was pretty close to you. You were protecting as a part of that three. And then we get to the final 8 round, which in my opinion was the biggest round of the game, where we have you join a group of three. I believe it was between Michaela, Andrew, and Christina. I'm curious to know, they were actually talking about voting you out before you had joined that group. Did you overhear that?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But I did really. This was the moment in the game where I was like, girl, like, they must be plotting against me, because I would be plotting against me for sure. So, like, I saw the writing on the wall. I wouldn't have been surprised if I was voted this round, because I think it was clear at this point that, I was picking up a lot of steam. I was, being very outspoken. I was making some big moves, starting to build my resume for the win. And that was when it only felt like, the only card I had left to play was to turn on my ally, which I felt like was good for me in a number of different ways. Obviously, it took the spotlight off of me in that moment, but also it kind of signaled to people. I was like, oh no, but I was like, you all think like we're working so close together. I was like, no, we're not. I was like, no, like put her up for elimination. Like, let's vote her out. Like, I don't care. I love Shrishti. Shrishti's amazing. I felt so bad that it had to come down to that, but it was truly like it felt like me or her that round. And I was willing to throw her under the bus to get ahead in the game, and it was the right move all the way.
I could not agree more. It was such an impressive move in the moment. It happened to be my breakout room that you guys were in. And, obviously I know you and I've seen you play, and I just did not expect the killer instinct, the cutthroat. It was like immediate. I'm like, whoa. I was like, wow. I didn't know if it was going to work out. And it definitely did. And it was funny in that moment, too, where you had just played the, scavenger hunt with the umbrella. Unfortunately, you missed out on that.
Oh my
And
God.
then that other group of four that was in another room, they just could not make a decision. They did not deciding on a name before coming into the room. And just because, even though that you and Christina didn't have a vote at that point, you guys had a name, and it was Shrishti, and that's ended up what happening. So sometimes, just ran the clock down, and it really worked out for you in that moment.
Yeah, sometimes being really decisive and like confident, again, especially when there's such a time crunch, I feel like is ultimately the way to go. And that came up a few times in this game where I think that there were people who maybe otherwise, if we had like another minute, would not have been voted. But because of how fast it moved, you come in, you say a name with confidence, you drum up 3 or 4 votes, and like that is enough to ultimately make the decision. So yeah, crazy round. Shout out to Shrishti though. Amazing player and like so much fun getting to work with her and get to play together on this mini.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, what's up with the umbrella? Didn't have an umbrella?
Girl, like let me tell you like how humiliating. And the worst part is normally I have an umbrella like right next to me, so this should have been an easy win, but I feel like umbrellas are the number one thing. It's like, girl, chapstick and umbrellas, I'm always losing. So yes, currently I have no umbrella, but thankfully now I have $100 and I'm gonna buy like 3 umbrellas so that I'm stocked up and I will win any future scavenger hunts and I will not get rained on. Okay, so thank you, Fight or Flight, for buying my new umbrella.
Yeah, mark that down. Next to the umbrella scavenger hunt, Teagan's there. And we get to the next round. You also do really great work this round. It felt like your target was, once again, starting to amass, but you really, kept the girls together. You also talked to Andrew about, hey, let's get some of the quieter players out. I think you hit both sides of that argument where Lucas just, with both sides of that argument, had no shot. So it felt like your push there was very strong. Talk to me about pushing that name, and you were able to cleanly get Lucas out there.
Yeah, it felt like a natural, like, next step. I think that, we weren't working together. Now I obviously know that, like, he had other allies in the game, but at this point, like, we really had not been talking at all. And he was flying under the radar, quiet player. It's always those people who are, like, up for elimination very early on that end up being safe, that then skate by, like, all the way until the end. And so, being able to make a case for that felt like it was the moment, it was the right call. And I was just glad that I was able to unite the divas against him. Also, though, again, he played such a great game. And yeah, but it was his time, I felt. It was his time. And again, in the moment, in the fast-paced environment, I was like, I just have to keep the focus off of me. I need to keep throwing other names out, giving reasons to vote other people out. Like Sandra says, right? Like anyone but me, I have to just constantly shift everyone's focus because this game is moving so fast that, if we can all start talking about someone else, people won't have an opportunity to plot against me.
Yeah, and truly you kept pushing that narrative. We have the next round where Andrew is going to turn against the wall the whole time, ends up becoming safe. And you keep the women together this round, and Daniel's going to catch a lot of the votes. However, you end up wanting to throw a vote on Tori here. I know it was kind of talking of, okay, maybe we go Daniel, maybe go Tori here. What led you to end up voting for Tori this round instead of Daniel?
I think I wasn't totally sure where the votes were gonna go in this instance. I really liked Daniel. Like I was just having fun playing with him. I was totally having fun playing with Tori too. But I think I wasn't so sure what was gonna happen this round. And so I figured that either of them getting out was a good call. You know, I felt good about either of them going because they were both clearly strong players who were picking up a lot of momentum in the game. And I think and I might be wrong, my memory might be a little foggy, but I think I was also nervous about like the amount of votes that everyone was getting. I think that I thought that I was potentially going to be voted against this round. And so I felt like if I broke up the votes a little bit, that maybe it would have been a small majority that led to the person being voted out, which I think it was anyway. So I don't honestly totally remember what I was thinking there, other than I was like, you know what? They're both threats. They both need to go. I could take or leave either of them. As long as it's not me, I'm like Tori, Daniel, like whatever, like someone's got to go and it's going to be one of them.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. It ends up being a 4 to 2 to 1 vote with Christina's extra vote going on Daniel. That's why there's 7 on the final 6 here. You end up catching 1 vote from Daniel. But, I mean, let's say, random hidden immunity idol, which doesn't exist in Fight or Flight, you would have been protected if he threw that vote, which I understand. But ends up working out. You end up going to the final 5 here and are able to dodge the nomination here on the revote, and Andrew does not pick you to go into the competition. I know we talked about it earlier. Was it luck? Like, was it the relationship that you had talked about, the perception of maybe keep a bigger threat in the game going into Final Four? What was your thought process here? Dodging that, I felt was wild.
It really was. It really was. And it was these moments where I started to be like, oh my God, like I might win. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I actually might win because I did not expect that for sure. Yeah, I do think that, Andrew and I had been, building up not maybe as strong of an alliance as him and Christina, but definitely like we had an alliance of sorts. We felt like we were aligned and our goals in the game were pretty similar. We were targeting similar people. And so I do think that in some ways I definitely got lucky, but I also think that, this is why advocating for yourself and like whispering these little things into people's ears throughout the game is so important because you never know what's going to stick and you never know what people are going to take with them. And so I think that the narrative that I pushed about the quiet players just really resonated with him. And again, it was totally true, but it also was an opportunity to protect myself in that moment. So I was shocked that he didn't put me up, especially because I then literally voted for him to be the one who was nominated. But yeah, it was a crazy round. And certainly luck plays a huge role in the competition. And after watching and playing Fight or Flight, like the bottom line is you can have all the strategy in the world. But at the end of the day, if the stars aren't aligned, it's not going to work out for you. And so luck just happened to be on my side. Luck be a lady. And yeah, it just was the moment that I was probably most relieved to be safe because that really could have been, I think, the end of my game. Had I not dodged being up for elimination.
Yeah, and I empathize and understand with that a lot. I've seen luck play out firsthand, and I've seen it happen to me in a certain instance. But I've also seen what you played at the Final Four. This number comp, I'm very familiar, and you are gonna. I'll give Andrew some credit here. Makes a really great save for Michaela to take him there,
Yes.
and it ends up being yourself versus Christina in this number competition. Walk me through some of your thought process going into this competition. I know you've seen it played. What are you thinking going into this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, I've seen it played. I think about how I would approach it. You never know how the person you're playing against is going to approach it. But what I told myself was I'm not going to like pick 10, 11, or 12 until the bitter end. Like, I am leaving those numbers no matter what, because if I have those at the end, there's no way that I can lose unless my opponent does the exact same strategy. And so, I realized pretty early on that whoever gets right the most points initially is probably going to lose. And I noticed that she was picking a lot of her bigger numbers. I was staying again under 10 completely. And so by the end, I just was able to narrowly snatch the win. It was definitely close. I think there was a moment where I picked like 11 and she put her 10. It was little moments like that again, luck, right? Like luck that worked out. But I think my strategy definitely helped of just like preserving the big numbers because I've seen this play out and I found that that is usually the way that people win is by, avoiding using those big numbers until the very, very end to secure the win.
Yeah, and I think that strategy worked out very well. Originally, I remember the first numbers that were played were 6 to 5, and I was like, oh no, Teagan's in a lot of trouble here. But the fact that you were able to conserve those big numbers, I think Christina was ahead at like 5 to 2 at some point, and it looked very dire. And you were able to, the comeback was honestly insane to see. And then I think it was, you're right, probably like 11 to 10 on one of the last ones, able to pull it out. And I'm sure an insane feeling. But then also, you go into the final three, you have this jigsaw puzzle, and I'm watching you. You're in my room, and I'm ready. I'm on the sidelines, behind the scenes here. When you win, I get to type in our like production tech. Teagan's done. It's over. Such a insane moment. I know you kind of cover your hands. Talk to me. What's that feeling like? Like you just kind of comp your way out to the end here. You know for sure you're in the final two. Likely with a very very good shot to win at this point. What's the feeling?
Oh my God. I mean, well, here's the thing. Like, again, being a fight or flight fan, I was like, these bitches aren't taking me to the end. Like, there's no way. Like, the only way I'm getting to the end is by winning the puzzle. And so when I tell you, I have literally like never been more locked in for anything in my life than I was for this fucking puzzle. I was like, this is life or death to me right now. Fight or flight is very serious to me. So it was crazy. It was really, really crazy. And I think that it's so funny. This year, just randomly, I've been like doing more puzzles. So it really came in handy because I was like, okay, again, everything is strategy. Like I feel like you always need a strategy. Like whether or not it will work, is a toss up, but you need to have some sort of plan. So I was like, I need to literally just be like, do the bottom and do the top first. Because like if I have the like outside, it'll be so much easier to get the inside. And so I literally as fast as I can, I was like, let me just pull these pieces together. And like I kind of felt like I was doing it really fast. Like I had a feeling that I like was gonna win, but when I heard that, it was unbelievable because I again like have never really thought of myself to be someone who's, particularly strong in comps. And so to knock out two like pretty tough comps like back to back like that, again, like no shade to everyone else, but I was like, I know that if I make it to the final two, that I will win. I was like, if I make it to the final two, like it's my game. And so that moment was really just kind of like, oh my God, like the power is in my hands, and like now it's my game to lose.
Yeah, and total props. You absolutely were locked in for that puzzle. You crushed it. I don't remember it being very close at all. They probably had at least a minute on them for sure. So very well done. You get to the final two, and I'll give my props to Michaela here too. It felt like she was playing a more under the radar, like a more nuanced game, and I didn't really see it, especially compared to you. Two very distinct games we had. And I feel like Michaela, she made a good pitch. It was
Yeah.
definitely back and forth. Walk me through your pitch here and going against Michaela in the final two. Did you still feel like, oh, I got this locked up, or oh, it's Michaela giving a good pitch here?
I'm gonna give full props to Michaela that she definitely gave a great pitch. I think that, again, there's no wrong way to make it to the final two. Like if you're there, you played the game right, And being a sneaky player who, is able to socially attach, like again, like it's crazy that Andrew, or it's crazy that I picked Michaela after she, didn't pick me that first time in the final four to the final three. And so, I definitely could have turned that back on her and been like, okay, no, I'm not taking you. But I took her anyway. And so that is a testament to her ability, I think, to, again, be an agile player, be very adaptable. That being said, I felt like I knew the game that I played. And I've watched a lot of, the fight or flight finales, and I feel like what people want to see is someone who is hungry for the win, somebody who is unapologetic about the game that they played, someone who played hard and who really dominated the game. And I knew that I had done that. And like that ultimately was just something that was not up for debate. Michaela did a great game, but I know that, nobody pushed the game forward in the same way that I did. And on top of that, like I said, oration. It was late at night. I was tired. It might not have been the best speech I've ever given, but I still feel pretty confident in my ability to, like, sway people, and to get people, riled up and excited for something. And so, I felt pretty confident that I was going to take the win, but she definitely played an amazing game. She gave a great case for herself in the end. And I'm just so, so thankful that the jury, saw the game that I played and felt that I was deserving of taking it home that night.
Yeah, and you get the win. It's a 7-2 vote, so pretty clear cut. What's the feeling? Your fight or flight legacy, you play season one, and now you come back for this mini. How do you feel?
I mean, like, honestly, it was a huge moment. Like, so ridiculous, but like I was so happy. I was really devastated during season one because I wanted to win so bad. I think that's a big reason why I like don't get involved in orgs and like why I don't do this more is because like it literally makes me crazy. Like it brings out such a side of me that like I don't know how to put back away, And so like it's very serious for me and like when I play this stuff, I really like to, give it my all. And so it was surreal. It was a surreal moment to get to play, to get to come back with like so much knowledge and a totally different approach and like, really see that actually come to fruition. It was really, really rewarding. And, I felt great too as like a fan of the game, and as someone who, like I said, has watched, I watched the other mini, I watched all the other seasons, like, and I've observed how other people have really made great moves. Again, like I think about, some of the amazing moves that you made in your season. I think about the way that Emily and Henry played in season three. I think about all of the people that I've watched do amazing. And I think that little pieces of their games definitely inspired me in how I approached this one. So I feel so, so lucky to now be a part of the winner circle. And, who's to say, like, maybe I'll get another chance to play again. I'm always gonna, say yes to fight or flight if I get the chance to hop back on the screen.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. If, let's say All Stars comes your way, let's say, fan favorites or legends, whatever the title is, you picking up the phone or are you playing again?
I mean, always, always. Just because I won this one does not mean that, there's still not a better game I could play. And I just always have so, so much fun getting to do this. I've said it multiple times, but I just can't thank Anthony and all of the production team who, make this possible. It's such a fun thing to be able to do. I love the way that it brings people together. I love that it gives us a chance to, exercise our competitive spirit in a healthy way. And yeah, I mean, I'm a narcissist. Like I love getting to be on camera and looking beautiful and saying funny things. And this time I just so happened to snatch the win as well. So it was so much fun. I had a blast. And I am so, so excited to see whatever comes next from Fight or Flight.
Likewise. Well, Teagan, what is next for you? Anything down the pipeline? Anything people should be looking out for? What's going on?
I am kind of off the grid at this moment. Like, I'm kind of living my Amish fantasy. I have been really off social media this year, which has been very, very healing. I do have like a 9 to 5 job that I really, really love, that I'm very passionate about. And so, I continue to pour myself into that, find opportunities. I actually am going to be playing a one day Survivor this weekend, though, and it will be my first time playing Survivor. So, I think that maybe this could embolden me to play some more games now moving forward, especially now that I have a win under my belt and I feel very confident about my abilities. But you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to just playing more, to watching more Fight or Flight, to, cheering on whoever plays in the next mini. And yeah, I can't wait for season 5 to come out as well.
Hey, well, best of luck in your Survivor game. Anything else I missed or that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I'm gonna say this. I was really tired at the end of the game. And so like words escaped my brain and I was like something about going to McDonald's. Okay, I want to retract my statement and I want to put on the record that I'm gonna use my $100 to take my beautiful girlfriend out to dinner. That is what I will be using my money for, and that is my official winner statement. So fuck McDonald's.
And that's on the record. Put it down. Teagan, it was an absolute pleasure getting to talk with you. So fun to hear all your thoughts. Thank you again for your time. This has been the winner interview with Teagan for mini number 2. I have been Nathan from season 3 and 4 of Fight or Flight. And for Fight or Flight, you can check us out on YouTube, Patreon, TikTok, Twitter, all of the above. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.
It's time for us to flight.
We out of here.